Today is the trade deadline, and we saw the Dallas Cowboys make a trade today that was not very popular, especially in the fantasy football space. But today we got to take a look at Jonathan Mingo. We got to deep dive this situation to see whether or not you need or don't need him for fantasy football. For 95% of the people out there, they probably don't need him. For that 5%, God rest their souls. But before we do this deep dive, you need to click that subscribe button right now. Whenever a trade happens, whenever news happens, whenever a player's climbing up a depth chart, falling down a depth chart, doing whatever, we will do a deep dive on that trending player. On top of that, we go deep on the waiver wire, and then we also use these videos to help you set your lineups. Click that button right now. Stop missing out. Ric Flair's watching. Do not disappoint Ric Flair. But we got to look at Jonathan Mingo. I didn't know I was going to do this video or not. I didn't think I really had to. And then I was really thinking it's not about my opinions or my beliefs when it comes to these players. Some people need the information on Jonathan Mingo, what to do going forward. So we're going to do this video. Jonathan Mingo going to the Dallas Cowboys for a 4th round pick. The Cowboys could have used that 4th round pick for a running back in next year's draft class. Next year's draft class, if you didn't know, it's going to be stacked at the running back position. It's going to be so stacked that you're going to be looking at UDFA running backs middle of the year as potential pickups for fantasy football, much like last year for guys like Keaton Mitchell. It's going to be a draft class like that. So Jonathan Mingo taking some of this draft capital away from the Dallas Cowboys is a big deal for this team. But looking at things from the outside looking in, you're kind of like asking yourself why. And CeeDee Lamb is dealing with the shoulder injury but could be back to play against the Eagles. He might be looking at this and say, maybe I need a little bit more rest. He might be saying that. We don't know. That is kind of logical because you're also seeing Dak going to IR more than likely. You're also seeing Cooper Rush out there. You see this deal happening and you're like, what's going on here? I'm at least going to be healthy when I come back. Maybe he takes some time off. Maybe he doesn't. I'm just saying what I would do in that situation after seeing this. CeeDee Lamb with Cooper Rush, though, a 32.9% target share, gets the first reads, getting a lot of opportunities. That being said, CeeDee Lamb still going to eat or at least get the work rate with Cooper Rush. What does that mean with Jonathan Mingo for the rest of the season? There's going to be a ramp-up time. And CeeDee Lamb is going to eat. Jake Ferguson's going to be getting the targets as well. There's not going to be many targets left for the rest of the wide receivers on this offense. But you're looking at Jonathan Mingo. We haven't done anything with the Carolina Panthers. We have not done a single thing this year. Our best game was what, like 7 PPR fantasy points in week 1, and that game was a rout. It was a busted game script because the Saints got so far ahead that the Panthers just had to keep chucking it. But you're looking at what he did at college, and it was not a very impressive resume. It took until our 4th year to break out with 861 yards and 5 touchdowns. Our ADOT was very high though. 14.5 in 2022 with a 14 average over the course of his career. That's the depth of his target. So that means deep ball city. That's where he trends at from college. But he also can trend as like a big slot wide receiver, a guy you can move around due to his size and athleticism. But you're also looking at a wide receiver that wasn't dominant at the college level. So it's very unlikely for a wide receiver who wasn't dominant at the college level to become all of a sudden dominant at the NFL level. The odds are very stacked against that for most wide receivers. There are wide receivers that aren't dominant at the college level that hits. However, they are few and far between, and most of them with this prospect profile do not hit at the NFL level for fantasy football. You look at the athletic specs and you compare that with the prospect profile, he looks like a version of Xavier Legette, but their play styles are different on the field. They look very similar on the spreadsheets, though. Draft capital not too far off from each other, too, just about 9 to 10 picks away from each other. Athleticism-wise, size-wise, very similar, except for Jonathan Mingo, a little bit slower, a little bit stiffer when it comes to getting out of breaks. Xavier Legette, a little bit faster, a good deal faster on the top end, and you're looking at his strengths. Good size, slippery, okay route running, and then you look at his weaknesses. He's not super sudden out of the break, not creating separation, which is something we saw coming out of college. Okay ball skills, getting downfield, using his size, pretty much winning with that size-adjusted athleticism. Feet are efficient because he can break off routes, but he's not very sudden with it. You have to be quick. You have to be a very sudden mover when breaking off the routes. You can't just be good at breaking them off. You also have to be quick at doing it. Unable to find the second gear downfield, which is huge for a guy like this who relies on size-adjusted athleticism to get downfield, to make those plays, because we're not the most nuanced player. We're not the most gifted player. We need that. So this is a wide receiver that needs to develop, that needs some time. But also, when you look at him, he's got some skills to where he can win on the field. But to piggyback off that, we see a lot of wide receivers that have some skills that they can win on the field that just don't. But over the course of time with the Carolina Panthers, 2024, nothing at all from him. Last year as a rookie, in a decimated offense, injuries at wide receiver, we were up and down with some production. We hit double digits 4 times last year. We're getting you some production, averaging though 4.6 points per game. We can rack up air yards in certain matchups. That's something to pay attention to, but this offense was very weird last year. We got 107 air yards in week 5. We can get deep targets. We can also be used over the middle after the catch. We can be used in multiple different facets. And then on top of that, we can command target share. The thing about that, even though the opportunities were kind of weird last year due to the injuries, the thing about that is that it's not like he was just stuck on the sidelines watching when opportunities were there. He was able to get some opportunities and get some targets while out there on the field. He was able to do that. That is one thing to note about Jonathan Mingo's prospect profile. And you can also say that when you're looking on the other side of this, you can't say that Carolina's been ran appropriately right now and say that with a straight face. So there is a little bit of optimism to look at this. When you break this down the center with Jonathan Mingo, you're looking at the targets though with CeeDee Lamb pushing a 30% target share. That's probably going to increase with Cooper Rush because he's just going to funnel the targets to him. Jake Ferguson pushing a 20% target share. So you're looking 50% of the targets or more going to Ferguson and Lamb. Jalen Tolbert's not dead. He's going to see a good target share. Brandon Cooks might be back from the injury. We're going to see what's going on with him, with the news. Everyone's speculating on that. And if he's back, he's going to steal target share. So for 2024, Jonathan Mingo, it's probably not going to be worth your time unless you're in a deeper league, unless you're in a dynasty league and you really want to make that stab at this offense for the long term. If you liked him going in, there are a few things to like in his prospect profile. Like last year, he was able to get on the field, was able to see targets, wasn't left in the dust. He did more than Sky Moore during his rookie season. I guess you could say that. However, I don't like his prospect profile. I don't like his production metrics. I like his size-adjusted athleticism. I don't like how the Carolina Panthers has been handling things. But when I look at him on this Cowboys offense, after you see CeeDee Lamb get almost a 30% target share, you're getting a lot of targets to the tight end. It doesn't even matter what tight end's out there. We know Dak goes to the tight end, and then they're always going to have another wide receiver there. And it's not like they can't draft another wide receiver on top of that going into next year, because it is going to be another good wide receiver class, and we're going to see good wide receiver class after good wide receiver class after good wide receiver class going forward, because that's what we're seeing from the high school ranks and early on in college is these young guys hitting at the wide receiver spot because it's trained up so early these days. So when you're looking at a guy like this, it's too much galaxy brain for you in basic redraft. However, if you're in a crazy league and you're starting like 6 wide receivers, a lot of flexes, 16 teams, 20 teams, 22 teams, you're looking at dynasty, and the market is really tanking on him right now. They're really bashing him and burying him. So you could get him as a throw-in. I would not trade for him. I don't like him that much, but I'm staying right down the center. If you're paying attention, you can kind of say that. I started off kind of rough on him and just trying to weave back and forth as much as I can to give you the information that you need. But if you're in a deep dynasty league, or if you're trying to make some bold moves, or if you're trying to make a cheap move, or you're trying to get a throw in, he is a guy to look at. There is something here. This offense is kind of weird because they will allow some ancillary players to get some opportunities. On top of that, they don't have much to work with when it comes to next year, and it looks like they're trying to rebuild up the gut with the offense, defensive line, especially on defense as well. They got a lot of moves they got to make on this rebuild. I don't know if they think they're rebuilding or not. I don't know where their head's at. They also got to spend some picks at the running back position. So there's not much allocated to spend back at wide receiver. And it must have liked Jonathan Mingo going forward. He did look good in training camp this year. I have a video on that from training camp. We were looking at mainly Bryce Young, but it was Jonathan Mingo all day long, and he was balling out. He could be a surprise player. I'm just not going to bet on it. You might be, but it better be on the cheap to damn near free. If not, you're getting something back in return that's very juicy. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. One thing for watching. Catch you on the next video.